Welcome to Caffeine News. Here are the ongoing updates concerning the drones into Poland incident. The incident involves Russian drones entering Polish airspace during attacks on Ukraine, with Poland and NATO shooting down several. Russian sources claim they came from Ukraine's direction, possibly implying Ukrainian origin or deflection. Western outlets confirm that them as Russian Shaheeds, viewing it as a potential provocation testing NATO resolve. Geopolitically, this heightens escalation risks in the Russian-Ukraine war. Russia may aim to divide NATO allies, while Poland's response underscores collective defensive commitments. Ukrainian benefits from portraying Russia as an aggressor. Tensions could lead to stricter airspace monitoring or diplomatic fallout. So here's some of what I am hearing. So Poland and NATO reacted the way they did over decoys. And now, knowing there was no actual danger because the drones have been identified as decoys, Poland is still calling for NATO Article 4 consultations. Now, more on that here in a minute. Now, moving on to some Poland information.
Numerous drones from Russia violated Polish airspace. Our air defenses were activated and successfully ensured the defense of NATO territory, as they are designed to do. Several allies were involved alongside Poland. This included Polish F-16s, Dutch F-35s, Italian AWACS, NATO multi-role tanker transport and German Patriots. I commend the pilots and all who contributed to this quick and skillful response. The North Atlantic Council met this morning and discussed the situation in light of Poland's request for consultations under Article 4 of the Washington Treaty. Allies expressed solidarity with Poland and denounced Russia's reckless behavior. A full assessment of the incident is ongoing. What is clear is that the violation last night is not an isolated incident. The Supreme Allied Commander will continue to actively manage our deterrence and defense posture along the entire eastern flank. Allies are resolved to defend every inch of Allied territory. We will closely monitor the situation along our eastern flank, our air defenses continually at the ready. This only reinforces the importance of NATO and the path to which allies agreed at our summit in The Hague earlier this year. We need to invest more in our defense, ramp up defense production, so we have what we need to deter and defend. And we need to continue to support Ukraine, whose security is interlinked with our own. And let me conclude by saying that Russia is waging a dangerous war of aggression against Ukraine that continually targets civilians and civilian infrastructure. Allies are determined to step up their support for Ukraine in the face of Russia's escalating campaign.
So there you have it, as it relates to Article 4. So now, concerning Article 4, some information that I think will be important to you, the viewer. Poland will invoke Article 4 of NATO to consult on the response to the threat. Tusk says Poland will invoke the Article 4 of NATO, requesting a formal consultation within the alliance, a move agreed between him and the president. The article reads, parties will consult together whenever, in the opinion of any of them, the territorial integrity, political independence, or security of any of the parties that is threatened. Article 4 has been invoked only 7 times since NATO was created in 1949, and the last one was in 2022 in the immediate aftermath of Russian full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Words are not enough, Tusk had said, and Poland will request a much greater support from NATO allies. Now, here's a picture of a Russian drone. Just to give you, the viewer, a visual. Apparently, this is a Gerbera drone, and it crashed pretty deep into the territory. Here's a visual of where that particular drone was located. You see Warsaw up to the northeast, and you see Lviv down here to the slightly south east as well. Now, moving on, the Polish government spokesperson, Prime Minister Donald Tusk, will soon begin those talks with the presidents of Ukraine and France, the NATO Secretary General, and the prime ministers of Italy and Great Britain. Now, here's some more pictures of drones. And you saw this one over here to the left already. I don't know if this is a picture of the same one, but it kind of gives you a different vantage point visual of what these drones look like. There is the identification numbers here. And the Gerbera drones are typically employed by Russia as decoys or signal relays, also for reconnaissance and electronic surveillance, and can be fitted for strike missions. So ultimately, this is where you keep hearing about they were decoys or reconnaissance. And this is where some of the theory is going on to, this is sort of a prelude or, an exercise, if you will, to kind of see what's going on. But, more on that here in just a second. So this is an unprecedented attack, not only on Poland, but also on NATO and the EU. A Russian envoy has been summoned, and U.S. and European partners have been informed. Poland and NATO will not be intimidated. Those are the latest comments from the Foreign Minister of Poland. Now, Washington has only made really one comment that is of any note. The White House official tells they are tracking the reports out of Poland. So it appears right now the U.S. is just assessing everything and really viewing and sitting back. I'm not sure what their logic or reason for that is, but when the facts present themselves or more actual concrete comments coming out of the United States, I'll provide that information as it comes. Now, in Lithuania, thought this was important to all of this going on. NATO sources say 2 flying objects entered Lithuanian airspace at 10 a.m. Wednesday, just under 7 hours ago. They were not engaged, and reconnaissance is ongoing. Now, Moscow has commented. The Russian Defense Ministry, there were no targets planned for destruction on Polish territory. Russian drones that allegedly crossed the Polish border cannot fly more than 700 kilometers. So that's their comment. Though I do think it's interesting that the comment, I want to highlight there were no targets planned for destruction on Polish territory. I think that's an interesting comment, don't you? More to come on that later. So, what does this all mean? But I really like this article, and I thought that you, the viewer, would be interested in hearing this. Zapad 2025 and the Polish drone incursions from simulated war to Operation Coercion. This column draws on multi source intelligence analysis and doctrinal expertise to interpret the convergence of the Polish drone incursions of 10 and 11 of September 2025 with the opening of the Zapad 2025 exercise. The assessment reflects structure, analytic, tradecraft, and regional expertise from Polish, Russian, and Belarusian perspectives. The night Poland skies changed. In the early hours of September 10th and 11th, while Russian forces launched one of the largest strike packages of the year against Ukraine, Poland experienced an unprecedented violation of its airspace. 19 unmanned aerial vehicles crossed its eastern frontier with radar plots showing vectors consistent with Belarusian corridors. Polish integrated air defense engaged several targets, while NATO aircraft, F-35s and F-16s, already aloft on enhanced air policing patrols, were vectored to provide cover and tracking. Airports at Warsaw, Chopin, Modlin, uh, Rzeszów, and Lublin suspended traffic, diverting flights and delaying dozens of services. Fragments of drones were found in Wyriki, Czechwałka, and Chechniki. One UAV struck a private house, causing material damage but no fatalities. The Polish Prime Minister addressed the nation before dawn, framing the incident as deliberate aggression and announcing immediate recourse to NATO's Article 4 consultation mechanism. The timing, 2 days before the declared hot phases of POD 2025, was regarded in Warsaw as no coincidence but as a calculated pressure. The exercise script and its hidden logic, Zapad 2025, like its predecessors, is structured into stages. The repulse of the initial NATO-led incursion, followed by liberation and stabilization. In Russian and Belarusian doctrinal vocabulary, stabilization is not benign peacekeeping, but the consolidation of occupied space, involving suppression of resistance, political policing, and information control. Belarusian journals from the Academy of Military Sciences in Minsk have long described stabilization as diffusion of conventional maneuver with hybrid dominance, using militias, information operations, and electronic warfare to lock down contested areas. This doctrinal framing has been coupled since 2017 with explicit nuclear play, whereas Zapad 2017 invented fictional adversaries like the Vashinora to mask the exercise's target set. The 2025 edition names NATO and Ukraine as direct adversaries. The integration of the Orishink hypersonic complex into staff play demonstrates the escalation up to the nuclear level is not a marginal possibility, but a rehearsed element of Union state planning. Poland's strategic interpretation. Polish authorities dismissed Russian narratives of stray drones. They argued that the synchronization of incursions with the mass strike on Ukraine pointed to deliberate probing. The incursion forced Poland to activate interceptors and reveal defensive loops, producing valuable intelligence for Moscow. Warsaw's Ministry of Foreign Affairs presented the incident as an attack, not an accident, and argued that it tested alliance cohesion days before Zapad's most politically sensitive phase. Article 4 consultations were rapidly scheduled. While these fell short of Article 5's collective defense provisions, they signaled to Moscow that the alliance treated the event as a collective problem rather than a bilateral nuisance. Analysts in Warsaw interpret this as a Russian effort to probe both the speed of NATO's decision making and the depth of the alliance solidarity. Belarus as vector and amplifier. Belarus's role in Zapad is no longer that of a junior partner. By opening its airspace for Russian UAV corridors and potentially hosting launch teams, Minsk acts as an enabler and amplifier of coercive ambiguity. Belarusian officials avoided direct acknowledgement, instead echoing Moscow's framing that drones may have strayed. Yet the doctrinal reality of the Union state positions Belarus as the first echelon of provocation. The space, though, which ambiguity can be projected into NATO territory. This is consistent with the water pattern. Belarus provides staging areas for hybrid operations, while Russia claims plausible deniability, insisting that any violation was collateral. Excuse me, folks. It's a lot of reading. Escalation as a managed ladder. The 19 incursions fit into an identifiable escalation sequence. In the shaping phase, Russia increased electronic interference and issued NOTAMs across Belarus, signaling disruption. During the ambiguous kinetic phase, the drones penetrated Polish airspace, forcing intercepts and triggering Article 4 consultations. The next stage may involve persistent low-grade violations during the exercise's hot phase, combined with the visual presence of dual-capable launchers and aircraft in Belarus to reinforce nuclear signaling. The risk of accidents is built into this ladder. Debris could cause civilian casualties, or a misidentified intercept could down a civilian aircraft, forcing crisis management through hotlines and NATO Council sessions. Only a deliberate strike on Polish or NATO infrastructure would push the crisis towards Article 5 consideration. But each rung lowers the threshold of shock and conditions the alliance to accept hybrid pressure as the new normal. Excuse me. Intelligence gaps and forensic uncertainty. Much of the Polish narrative has been confirmed by physical debris, civilian reporting, and radar logs. Yet, important gaps do remain. The drones are assessed with medium confidence to be Shahed-type Iranian-designed one-way UAVs, but official forensic photographs and serial numbers have not fully been released. No authoritative reports have been published on the GNSS interference or electronic warfare signatures, though anecdotal reports suggest anomalies. The chain of command linking Belarusian launch sites to Russian control is not yet clear. For intelligence professionals, the discriminators will be the release of the radar track files, technical exploitation of recovered fragments, and satellite imagery of Belarusian staging areas. NATO strategic dilemma. For NATO, the challenge is dual. On the one hand, it must demonstrate resolve, reinforce air policing, and publish evidence rapidly to counter Russian claims of accidents. On the other hand, it must avoid any retaliation across the border that could be construed as escalation to Article 5 territory. The line between deterrence and provocation is fine. The precedent established on the night of September 10th and 11th is historic. A NATO member has engaged hostile Russian platforms in its own skies. Each repetition will further normalize kinetic confrontation inside alliance territory. That carries risks. The more often these incidents occur, the more Russia may probe to see if solidarity erodes or fatigue sets in, reducing the deterrent power of Article 4. The information battle. Moscow's media machine framed the incident as accidental, even suggesting that Polish overreaction had needlessly disrupted civil aviation. Warsaw countered by publishing details of debris finds and explicitly linking the timing to Russia's strikes on Ukraine. The information domain is critical. Whoever shapes the narrative first defines international perceptions of legitimacy. For NATO, rapid publication of forensic evidence is as important as the interceptions itself. Drill and war become one. Zapad 2025 is not a rehearsal, but a mechanism of coercion. Its script integrates nuclear signaling, occupation doctrine, and hybrid ambiguity. By coupling the exercise with real UAV incursions into Poland, Russia and Belarus have fueled drill with war, transforming a scheduled training cycle into a live stress test of NATO's defenses, cohesion, and crisis management. The intelligence community must monitor Zapad not as an isolated exercise, but as a live operation. Analysis must track the sequence along an escalation ladder, define discriminators, and manage confidence levels rigorously. The coming 72 hours will determine whether the incursions of September 10th and 11th were an isolated probe or the opening of a sustained campaign designed to erode NATO's deterrent credibility and accustom Europe to hostile drones in Allied skies. This was prepared by Solutions ICT, Naarden, the Netherlands. Interested professionals and organizations are invited to contact Solutions ICT for further discussion, data exchange, or analytic collaboration. So here's a visual of sort of the Polish drone incursions and where they occurred. And this article highlights sort of that line between an exercise, testing of systems, and the greater prospect of future war with NATO as it relates to Russia and its ongoing conflict with Ukraine, potentially bridging into a greater conflict in the Eastern Front, monitoring NATO's responses as a whole, and getting that data on where are those points in which they respond, which is really incredible data that Russia can get by seeing really how we respond or how NATO responds and gathering that information for potentially something in the future. So this article is a lot to absorb, but I thought this article, out of everything that I've read, was really probably the best synopsis. So I hope that was informative for you, the viewer. So here's the final news bit, and goodbye for now. Tusk. There is no reason to claim today that we are in a state of war, but there is no doubt that this provocation exceeds the limits of what has been previously accepted. I plan on going live tonight at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, so please tune in. If you like content such as this and desire quick updates daily on these conflicts, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to my channel. Caffeine News out.